We're really excited to be here with our partners, INOVA. Melissa Smith, who's you guys have now met, is the Senior Director of Patient Financial Services. We've been working together now for about a year. My name is DJ Reed. I'm Senior Director of Provider Services at Medical Payment Exchange, or MedX. We're a technology company that focuses on helping our clients achieve their revenue cycle goals. So, moving forward here. Just a little bit about INOVA. INOVA is an amazing healthcare system. They serve over 2 million patients a year. They're in the DC area, Northern Virginia region. Very well respected organization throughout the country. They currently have 5 hospitals, over 2,000 physicians, and they're really kind of an integral part of the fabric of the community, not only from a patient care perspective, but from an economic perspective as well. Photos of their beautiful hospitals there. So we've been working with INOVA, like I said, for about a year now. And the key service that Medical Payment Exchange provides is an automated claim statusing technology that INOVA was really interested in. So we partnered with them to implement this type of solution for them. As everybody in here knows, almost everybody's revenue cycle, statusing claims manually is a really intense, resource-intensive process. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort. See, there's research out there that takes about 30 minutes to status a claim. It's either sitting on the phone with payors or manually logging on to the payer websites to pull down that information after a claim is submitted. By automating this process, we've allowed INOVA to kind of get a jump start on working some of those problematic claims up to 30 days by payer. So this is where the solution really steps in, and I'll turn it over to Melissa.
All right. So, I was just on a payer escalation call this week, and I won't say which payer it was that starts with an A, but they, I love these revenue cycle humor, it's great. But we have limits of what we're allowed to status and how many claims we can review on the phone and all the wait times and other payers. Where I have one payer that's we probably all deal with because it's national. My staff can be on the phone for 1 to 2 hours, right? So it's we are all held accountable to outcomes, and there's a lot of money we're spending on staff, and it's not a great use of time. So to know that there's technology out there that can make this more efficient and effective, it not only in theory is great, but part of what I'm here to tell you is that it really is great. We also have currently vacancy challenges, and I know for sure, and I was just talking with my VP about that this week, that having had this in place has really helped us weather that storm of some of the vacancy challenges we've had. Anyway, all this lingo that many of you probably think about all too often, but at the end of the day, you might have, whether you've got work queue set up or logic set up, at some point where you've decided my staff aren't going to work the claims until after X number of days. It's just not efficient and effective. I don't have my 835s back yet. And my claim status allows you all to be more opportunistic and take advantage of the time gap that the payers are actually statusing the claims within a matter of days, and MedX has all that data by payer and how quick and how fast and all the data elements available. And then the other thing it does is not only does it give you that gift of time, but it also lets you work by exception. So the data, with all the data elements my staff sometimes do or do not collect when they're on phone after being on hold for 30 minutes, that all of that is pushed to them, and we'll go through some of how we're integrated with Epic, et cetera, but all that is pushed to them with all the data that they need as soon as it's available. So you reduce the time, you've got the push technology, you've got every data element otherwise available through the phone calls if they ask the right questions, but for sure every data element if they scrub the entire website of the payer. And for us, all the lingo, cash is king, time is money, but that's what we do. And everywhere that we can be more efficient and effective, and everywhere we can automate processes and work by exception is, we have strong performance overall, but we're really looking at the how to be good to great, and this is a differentiator for us. Let's see, I just push my zero down. Okay, so in the roles that you all have, you might not be statusing claims yourself every day. However, every payer has a variety of detailed information available, and sometimes at some of the leadership levels, we are not as intimately aware of all the data elements available if the staff are going online and statusing claims. And this just gives you a sense of, compared to the 277, which many folks get, lots of folks have to also pay for, you can't drive workflow off of that. There's not enough data and information. So to get more than that, everything you would hope your folks capture on an accurate, and we can send you an email if you'd like. Yeah, absolutely. All the things that you would hope your folks always get if they were going on the phone, but obviously more efficient, and it always happens instead of sometimes, and you get it faster. Should be looking at my notes. I did make a lot of notes, but I just kind of have a lot of things. Oh, I forgot to say thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. That was I forgot to say thank you for Saturday morning being here. Gosh, I'm going to go back to the notes, I promise. Okay, I'll get better. Okay, moving right along. So just a little bit about us. I know DJ's clients or MedX's clients might use it, the services of medical payment exchange a little bit differently. But what I can speak to is what we're doing. And for both governmental and non-governmental payers, I was joking with DJ, I practically had to thumb wrestle my PB counterparts to be the one here in Chicago with all of you. But I can talk more about the HB side of things. That's the line of work I'm responsible for. We have implemented this for PB as well, and the PB leadership. If any of you had questions, I'm more than happy to talk with you. So we did spend a lot of time and money integrating this into Epic. We actually currently have an ongoing contract with some of our Epic Wisconsin counterparts. We've had the opportunity to, like many people, you know what you know, and I've only been with INOVA about 1.5 years, but you know what you know when you buy Epic and you implement it. And then for folks who have been in it for a few years, maybe when you were on 10 versus now we just went on to 17 in terms of Epic versions. You didn't know what you knew then, and they've now upgraded versions and there's more available. So we were able to, and actually in October even our latest and greatest upgrade and integration will be live. We were able to work with them to say, what's the best way to make sure that this is fully integrated and works the way it should. And our internal Epic resources that we employ obviously weren't the cutting edge experts in that. And although I had, and MedX had all the thoughts and ideas working with Epic Wisconsin, I was joking with them, I was gonna put their faces up here. But no, it's really great to have their partnership, and I'll show you the workflow slide that looks all clean and pretty, but you know, it takes a minute to make sure we were all on the same page, and we got there, and really excited about that. We talked a little bit about how big we are, and I think whether or not you're bigger than us or as big as us or smaller than us, I've worked around the country in my over 17 years at standalone facilities and much smaller organizations as well, or you know, in environments where there's merger and acquisition, and sometimes you're dealing with multiple platforms, and then you're accountable to report on all that and figure it all out and manage it as if it's integrated, even though it's not. And I know that this has applicability in those different environments, but for us, this is how we use it, that I primarily work on the HB side of PFS operations, but that I have a counterpart using the tool on the PB side. The other thing, and for all of you in IT, that's kind of why I needed to get a hand raised. Maybe this isn't your team, and this is nothing against our IT team, but sometimes we struggle getting all the data and analytics we want. And that could be a variety of reasons. I was just talking with one of my friends in the back here, and we're not the only users and consumers of healthcare IT and our healthcare IT resources. That obviously it's the patient first. I'm thinking about what we were just talking about, and remembering that when I'm waiting in line for IT support and resources, that of course it should be the patient first. And we're accountable for outcomes that sometimes are hard to deliver or wait for when you're in line with IT resources. So the other piece, and I've told this to Epic Wisconsin, as much as I think their tool is amazing, getting clarity resources to get you the reporting you want. At least we've struggled with getting that talent and retaining that talent, and the complexity of all those tables, and folks with that SQL skill set aren't always asking to work in your healthcare IT department, or at least where I work. So at the end of the day, though, I still need to get results, and I want to meet with payors, and I have a lot of friends who have worked on the payer side. In my past life, I've had managed care report to me, now they are a partner of mine. And without great data, you don't have a leg to stand on. And whether your staff are complaining or whether you know your aging or your cash are struggling, without the data, you're powerless, at least in my opinion. And so to get the attention and support of your managed care department and the payers, it really takes the data. And so to have the analytics at our fingertips and the payer scorecards, and to be able to slice the data, be it based off of the initial claim status and or off of the ultimate 835, and have that flexibility has really helped us. And we've been able to do a ton of denials prevention, especially from a front end perspective. When you see all these Medicaid denials and realize that just because your response said Medicaid eligible for the front end didn't mean it was Virginia Medicaid, it was the HMO. And we've reformatted the response with our IT partners for the front end, and re-educated the front end that Medicaid eligible doesn't always mean that you should always pick Medicaid Virginia. And that's just one example of how getting that timely data and being able to do something with it has really been helpful. So again, one of the things here that I think is important is there's so much to work, and we've been doing a lot of work with Lean, and they were saying to me the other day, well, we've got to eliminate, and I love our Lean partners, they're great, and I think they have such a place and value. And so they said to me, well, we have to eliminate the defects. And I said, well, I wouldn't have a job if there weren't defects, because the percentage of the claims that are broken are what come to our shop. The things that just get paid, no one wants to talk to me about. And in fact, with the automation that we all understand as professionals in this field of how much can go out and get billed and paid electronically, that no one ever touches, that's great, but that's not what we work on every day. What we work on every day is everything that didn't work so well. So to know sooner the things that the payer is saying, yes, we're going to pay this in a matter of days instead of waiting 30 days to start having your staff do follow-up, and then take it out of their work use, they never touch it. But have it back there in case payer that we independently validated, no offense, DJ, the sales promise, and it was 96% highly reliable, that when the payer said they're going to pay, that they paid. So to take all that work out of the stream and be able to move up our workflow sooner, and then still have a mechanism over here for that couple of percent of the time where something might have changed, and either patient responsibility or some other things might have changed, nothing material, but something that we want the staff to maybe look back at, that we have the ability now to pull that back into the workflow. So, did I cover all my points? I kind of just start talking. Yeah, and along the way, if I have things that are not, if I'm talking too fast or not making sense, you just stop me. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is for, most people would probably die. My husband is much more knowledgeable about things people like to talk about, like sports. So I used to say things like, oh, I know what a DRG is, when he would know things about sports that I didn't know, and he would be like, no one cared. Well, now I know what like a CRD and a BDC are, because I've learned all this great Epic lingo. I've been on other healthcare IT platforms in my history, but now I feel like I have new lingo to talk about, and his latest response to me is, still no one cares, but it's okay. And, but we're from here, and so he's so jealous that I'm here and he's not, so now I'm like, So this is where really I would say the tool can work with any platform, but for us, the fact that we have it integrated into Epic, if you are an organization that uses Epic, like mine, their goal is as much as possible to say, how are you optimizing Epic and how are you making it work? And that you can only really do things or spend time and money when Epic hasn't already answered for that. So for us, it's a big deal to be able to say, well, Epic hasn't answered for this, and it can integrate, and we can optimize the tool without having another separate bolt-on to manage or pay for outside of the integrated workflow. So the claims sent from Epic, and Thrive is who we use. I think lots of folks use lots of different vendors from a clearinghouse perspective. And for us, what was also really helpful is we wanted to, and everyone's integrated differently, but our post scrubbed 835 and 837 and 835, a way to get that reliably and efficiently to MedX was to get that from our clearinghouse, because that's how we work today. We don't actually have that fully coming back into Epic with full reconciliation. That's a project we're working on, but that's where our file comes from. So they get that to MedX and all the secret sauce of MedX, which you can ask DJ about. But through automation, they are querying the websites more efficiently and more thoroughly than we could pay staff to do, candidly. And but just through leveraging technology. And then at the end of the day, we are able to get back. So they're checking, and if the payer's not ready to respond, they keep checking. But as soon as the payer has some sort of a status update, then we actually get the MedX then sends the CRD file and the confirmed spec we worked out. And again, we can talk about this if you're saying, oh my gosh, I would love to do this, but I only have one Epic resource assigned to me, and if they have to build this from scratch, it could take months. Like, we could give you what we've worked on. So lots of people helped me out in my career. And so we also then have the ability, if it's not a denial and we've mapped out the promise pay, basically we say, okay, we don't want the staff to work that, but if for some reason, and we have a whole methodology, which likely you guys have, of when you want your staff to get payer responses into their workflow, we call it our tickle follow-up timeline, and we could share that. I could share that with you as well. But we've added a little bit of time there because we know it's so reliable that when they say they're going to pay, that they do. That at the end of the day, however, if for some reason it doesn't happen or it's not happening fast enough, we still want someone to touch it. But then what we've also done is we've, in our Epic file where we've broken out all the remit codes, and we've assigned those detailed denials to whether or not we want to call that a denial, whether or not we want to open or close a BDC record, and who we want to be that owning area. What we've done is correlated that master file work we did in Epic with our counterparts at MedX, so that it kind of mimics that BDC process internally based on the MedX file before you get that EOB file. I think I'm in Among Friends where I can talk really technically, even though that's hysterical that I'm the one talking technically. But if I'm saying anything where you go, I have no idea what that means, or if you don't use Epic and you don't know that BDC is kind of opens up as like a follow-up denial record, and it helps you for reporting, it also helps you for workflow, and you can status where you are you appealing something, are you sending the medical records, or you can close it. So that's, if you didn't know what a BDC was. But then we make sure that that goes off of the claim status, so sometimes if we can resolve something before we get the EOB, that we have that opportunity, and that if we then get the EOB, we've also worked with Epic to make sure that that doesn't then duplicate the work and come back again as a unique record to be worked. So that's some of the logic to help make sure how things get removed and how things get replaced instead of having a duplication in the workflow. So that was where I was really wanting to make sure we had kind of the Epic sign off that they already have a BDC logic, and we wanted this to be a supercharger and be opportunistic where it made sense, but not muck anything up. And they were great at getting around the table with us, and this is the high level of that detailed build. Any questions on that? And again, we can email this. This is some of you have your cameras out. Okay, so the other thing here, and again, a lot of this is related to our volume, is that the amount of money that can go through, and a word that I like to use a lot is actionable, because off of the 277 alone, I can't do workflows or get my staff doing what they need. And when payers say paid, that can mean a million different things. So I really need to know, am I getting cash, and can I not touch it? That's what I want to know. Can I work by exception, and can I save time and staff effort? And so again, the amount of time we know, and DJ used publicly available data in terms of independent research about how much time and money it takes to status claims. But all of you know how much you spend, how much you pay your staff. and how often they're calling payors and how often they're sitting on hold, and the payer limitations of how many they're allowed to status. And so, everyone can do their own math there. And like I said, we've struggled a little bit with vacancies, and to be able to maintain our results, I know has been through the savings we've had here in our staff effort. And again, to be able to get the denied charges and something that we can take action on sooner is really helped. We have 5 different hospitals that I'm accountable to report on not only what's happening with denials, but denials prevention. And everyone wants detailed information. So you've got the CFOs or executives who might want the really high level dashboard and want to know how the needle's moving compared to expected outcomes. But then you want staff at any level, be it reg, case management, coding, or back end, who want to know the exact account, like who touched it and what was the payer and what was the day, and I want to look at the notes. And the beauty here, again, without months of hoping your Clarity resources can build it for you, is that you've got the high level and the account level detail all available to you. And so for me, who I talk to both parties, that's really helpful. And we'll show some pictures of that. So, and I'm not just saying this because you're right here, but no, the folks at MedX are great, and I've worked in healthcare, like I said, whether that's a long time or not, it feels like it. And I can't say that every vendor, do you always have that partner relationship. I'm lucky to have had many who are, and who will innovate with you and help you solve your problems. And, I wish I could hire their entire IT department, but I'm not going to take them away from you. But no, they're great, and it really helps when people are all rowing in the same direction. Also, we don't always have the analysts we need to tap into, and we have regularly scheduled calls, and they're able to, whether it's from the IT or from the analyst perspective, be able to really be an extension of us, and have been, I was going to say they've been flexible, but also the tool and the solutions have been flexible, and we really appreciated that. We've also, although at first it was all about us and what we needed, it quickly turned into also what our managed care counterparts wanted and needed. And so we had a couple of design sessions with them where our managed care counterparts were able to say, this is what I want to see, I want it defined this way, I want it to look this way. And so be it, the underpaid teams, denials team, follow-up team, the reporting team, or the managed care team have ended up all getting involved and getting value from the tools and the relationship. So these are just some visuals, and again, I think this is just to say, hey, anything I said, you needed to see what it looked like, but I think obviously, if you were interested, you wanna kick the tires a little bit more and dig in more. But for us, having a combination of high-level, executive-ready reporting with visualization is almost like we never get that. So to have that available has been great for the audiences where we need that. And then to also know, like I was saying earlier, that in any click to get actually the line-level detail by the HAR, at least if you're HP Epic, and the detail, whether it was a full or partial denial or exactly what happened there, it has given us efficiency beyond claim status and follow-up. It's really given us a tremendous leadership and analytics efficiency. So I think this is really important because claim status is a piece of this, and I think that's what we mostly were talking about, and what was a no-brainer sell. I've had actually 2 different VPs in the time that we've had this relationship, and both wanted and immediately believed in, regardless of their level of experience and expertise, the value of not having staff on the phone and pinging payer websites. And then the power of everything else that's available was, I think, a surprise. But then, like I said, soon after that, we started having all these other stakeholders wanting to be engaged as well. And to be able to get that feedback from the payers just in a matter of days, but be able to report on that is that first column, but then also to be able to get the remittance-based analytics. And some people have tools, and I know we've tried a variety of tools. I know we are still trying to continue to partner with Epic. I don't always have folks who are experts in pivot tables and understand what I need from a denials reporting perspective, and then weeks go by and I still don't have what I want. So the fact that I, who am not a pivot table expert, can go in and click a few buttons, and then lots of people on our team, whether they're executive or staff, can as well, and either can see it at that high level or that really detailed level, and then it connects to the language that they speak. It's the data points that they would otherwise see on the payer website or that they're otherwise seeing in the patient accounting system. Our learning curve, I don't know about you, but we didn't hire a whole bunch of new staff in our patient accounting follow-up teams to do this. And there really wasn't much of a learning curve after they, they understood it pretty quickly, but then once they saw it, because it was the same data that they're used to seeing. And so that was really cool too. I will tell you, going from other tools to Epic, we're still struggling with that learning curve. But, and then the dashboard, to be able to have, again, data that we can share at a variety of levels, and the efficiency around having to prepare some of that has been really helpful. And actually, we're continuing to optimize that. We've had some Smiles leadership changes, and they have also really engaged in some of what the CFOs want and how to get that more efficiently through this tool. So this is a sample of the payer scorecard, and again, this is something that both us, and meaning revenue cycle, and the managed care counterparts wanted. And one of the ways that they want to use that is as a negotiation equalizer, that we can complain about administrative burden, but if you don't have a way to measure it and communicate it across payers to your managed care department, they struggle, going to bat for you. And then when I look at how long it's taking me to get paid, sometimes they'll say, oh, well, you didn't bill it timely. And although with these high level metrics that say we do bill things timely, obviously you all know that sometimes, things do get hung up in the DMV process or CSB, depending on how you're measuring that, if you use Epic or not. But this was a way for us to have that in a way that both made sense to managed care and revenue cycle leadership. And in some organizations that's together, and in some organizations that's separate. And then also, we've had some of our payers ask to see like this view with multiple payers, but blinded. And we haven't given them all of that information, but there are data points from there that we're willing to share in our joint operating committees, et cetera. So some of the things we're working on, as if that's not enough, right? But, and I for sure am probably a geek when it comes to this, but as we all know, healthcare is changing all the time, and especially in the last few years, and HFMA had, and it's covered just a few months ago, patient as payer. And I know that, at least especially on the hospital side, so much of how everything is designed are for those big payers and those processes. And not everyone is designed to engage, including the patient, to be really engaged around what they owe and even understanding that. And one of the things that we want to do next is, we know that many times when the payer is saying, yes, this is going to be paid and in the claim status, you know that, and so it's not going to be a denial or any of that crazy stuff, but, and that person has a high deductible plan. And whether or not you're on the front end here, the front end didn't catch it, didn't communicate it, or the patient didn't understand it, all those things that we deal with every day. And I know that we've looked at some numbers, and they're, even by dedicating 1 or 2 people from your maybe, back end self-pay or collections, high dollar collections team with that patient collections experience, the data is clear that the sooner you communicate that and ask for that, the higher your collection will be, and then the lower cost to collect and the lower aging. And so for that population of patients, the next thing we're looking at doing is taking that, yeah, they looked insured, so maybe they didn't get caught on the front end, but it's all patient responsibility, and let's make that call, we even just use the 80-20 rule, let's make that call a few days out, instead of, I don't know if you guys don't use proration, but we don't, so that's like all the time you've taken to get everything fully adjudicated through the payer, and then you start statementing the patient. People don't even read their mail anymore. So that's an opportunity. I just got the sign that I'm maybe talking too much. So the next thing we're also going to do is, right now we wait for vendor placements, and then they struggle. They say, you want our aging down, you placed it too late, we want our aging down. But now that we can use all this data, we'll know where we really need their help as an extension of our team. And just like we can get our staff to work eat sooner, we want to use that with our vendors as well. And I will stop to make sure if you guys have questions or answering them. Yes.
Okay, great. So it sounds like this integrates into Epic. So when you're looking at all these dashboards and stuff, is that like a different software or website or?
Yes.
Okay.
So we don't have, we've not been able to achieve that in Epic, what we're getting here. So we do have like the denials and variance queues and stuff, but we're just not able to get what we need. Okay. Go ahead.
Have you found payers that you want to do this with that are not set up, that you partner with MedX to work on?
I don't think so, not yet.
So all payers are.
Well, they do that part, you know.
Yeah, so by the ACA, payers are required to provide that, can you guys hear me? Payers are required to provide that that adjudication information on their website. So if you find a payer that doesn't have that, they're probably in violation of the ACA. So we haven't found any payers yet that we haven't been able to work with.
We did something internally, so we did a lot of Boston scripting to do the same thing and bring it back to the Epic, but one of the things we struggled with the internal process was payers would change their websites all the time. So what happens, what's your process when they change and you're not able to get box back? How timely are you communicating? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I'm not the technical person, as I'm sure you guys can tell.
Well, we did ask that question, so if you can't answer it, I
Yeah,
can.
so no, our development team has developed processes to monitor that. So anytime a website is updated, it flags that, and we've been able to resolve all of those within 24 hours. Some coding tricks, I don't know.
Yes.
Are you using it for both HB and PB?
Yes.
Do anything in the dental industry?
Not yet. Are you in the dental industry? We can talk.
Sounds good.
Yes.
How many other systems do you integrate without that, besides Epic?
So far we found that the process is actually very similar across all systems. So we've done 3 or 4 different integrations with different systems to date, but it's a surprisingly similar process.
If we want to get a copy of this, do you want us to
Just
send you an
give me
email?
yeah, if you have a card or something. Happy to.
What will be your recommendation? Because recently in our health system, we partnered with another vendor to keep track of our claims. So now we're migrating all the data from the previous one into the new one, and I have maybe like 900 claims to review, and I have a goal to clean that in the next couple of months, 30 days.
Yeah, and you could talk if you do any batch processing like that.
We certainly can. Yeah. Are you asking me for a recommendation or Melissa?
Either.
Yeah, so we could absolutely take that entire batch and run that in a matter of a day. So.
But as far as like a process, I need to do that manually right now since we're migrating from a previous one to another vendor. So maybe.
But I'm sure, at least what we've realized is that what the IT team can do at MedX from a technology perspective, just getting them on the phone with the right person, sometimes is a 5-minute conversation. Like we schedule a call and we don't fully understand it, and they get on the phone with each other, and it's way less complicated than I thought, because at least, and I mean this, is every time our IT has said, well, can you take this and I can only give you this, they've always said, okay. So, you know, they haven't, in the calls that I've had to facilitate, been really demanding or strict about what they need. So our IT would say, oh, well, I have this file for this other reason, and they've been able to just figure that out, and however they ingest that on the back end, I've never gotten into. So if you're struggling with something, but the data's somewhere, I have found that they've been able to get into that process. Because we even had a different tool before fully being on Epic within our workflow when we first started working together. So it was a whole nother process, and which is pretty complicated. But again, they were able in that scenario to just plug in and get it done. So it'd be interesting to see what they could do with your data. Go ahead.
How long does it take to implement?
It depends on multiple factors, but if you're looking at a full scope integration like we did with INOVA and Epic, you're looking at 3 to 6 months. Just to get the MyClaim status technology up and running, it's about 2 weeks.
Is this a subscription, license, or service model?
Yes.
Good answer.
We're very flexible, and we're willing to work time to recapture. But yeah, we just want to work with folks.
Is that what that means?
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was like you were emulating statute of liberty.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.